Welcome to the Punny Math Teacher. For today's video, some expectations are that you use twice this video's length to ask questions, to take notes, to answer questions that I'm asking you or at the end of this video. And then you can also pause, rewatch, go back, go forward, change your playback speed, anything and everything to make sure that you get enough out of this video as much as you need and you have notes that can help you. And then for further resources, you can go to my Google website, sites.google.com/view/mathclass-help/home. Alright, so today's objective for this video is going to be performing addition, subtraction, and multiplication with integers. We're going to focus mostly on addition and subtraction with our negatives, and then we're going to do a little bit of multiplication at the end just to talk about signs and notes on that. Alright. So, making sure that we have our first page up, there we go. Our first page listed, operations with integers should be page 1 in your notes. Our next video will be operations with rational numbers, so we will get there with fractions, but we're going to focus on integers for today. So operations with integers, make sure your page is headed up. I'm going to use markers the rest of the time, that way my handwriting is larger and you can see it quite clearly. So we're going to start with drawing a number line. And I'm actually going to go up to 3. 1, 2, 3. And I want to note that going left is going more in the negative direction where numbers are less. So we typically associate this with our minus sign or a negative sign or subtraction sign. All of those are the exact same thing. And then moving to the right is typically associated with the plus sign because we're going in the positive direction where numbers are larger. So smaller numbers are to the left, larger numbers are to the right. And just as a side note, the minus sign is the same as subtraction. And we're going to see some examples where we use both at the same time, but the minus sign is going to be the same as subtraction. Alright, so then moving this up, we're going to use 8 boxes for the rest of our notes. So if you want to take a line, divide it in half, and then divide that in half, and divide those in half, and now you have 8 boxes. So if we hold this up, you have now 8 boxes that we're going to fill up. The top 6 are going to be examples, the bottom 2 are patterns that we've seen. So I'm going to write down all the examples first, and then we'll move into filling them out. Alright, so these are all 6 of our examples. Notice that this first one I filled out was 7 because we all know 3 plus 4 is 7. But notice that these are all variations of positive 3s, negative 3s, positive 4s, and negative 4s. So this 3 over here in our first upper left is a positive number, because even if you don't see a sign next to it, that still means it's positive. On this 4, we do see the plus sign, so this is also a positive number. So a positive plus a positive equals a positive 7. So you don't have to put the plus sign on every number. If it's positive, we just assume that there's a plus sign in front of it and that it is positive. We can see that over here with the 3 minus 4. This 3 is also positive. Even though we don't see the plus sign, it is positive. And then this 4, it could be positive or negative. So, trick question, I could rewrite this as 3 plus a negative 4, where the 3 is still positive and the 4 is negative, or I can think of this as subtracting a positive. Either way, it's telling us to go to the left on my number line, because that's a negative 4. So you could think of it as a negative 4 or taking away 4. I have $3, but I owe you 4. So if I give you my $3, how much is left of my debt? So if we look at our number line, I'm going to start at positive 3 because that's what the positive 3 tells me to do. I'm going to start there. Then I'm going to go left 4. So I'm going to go 1, 2, 3, 4 to the left. So my debt, I still owe you $1. And to show that I owe it, I don't have it, it's going to be a -1. So then both of these could be a -1. Another way to think about this happening of how it worked, maybe this helps you figure it out. So pick the way that sticks in your brain that actually helps you remember that. Another way to think of it is 4 minus 3. So I changed the order and I changed the signs. So I'm putting the negative on the 3 and the positive on the 4. Now 4 minus 3 is a +1, but since I changed the signs as well, that's why I'm going to tack on the negative. So I'm making that -1. I'm going to tack on that negative to make it a -1 because I changed the sign. So now I have to also change the sign for my answer. All right, -3 and -4. So they're both negative. So my answer is going to be also a -7. If I owe you $3 and then you pay for something else for $4, I owe you $4 more, so my total debt will be 7. Another way of thinking about it, if you don't like money, would be temperature. It's -3 degrees outside. It dropped 4 more. It's now -7 degrees outside. Sometimes temperature makes more sense to people's brains than money. All right, and then -3 plus 4. So this was -3 plus 4. That's kind of what we already did. So you could rewrite this as 4 minus 3 if you'd like. So you can switch the order. The answer will be the same because I'm keeping the signs straight. So the 4 is still positive, the 3 is still negative, so my answer is going to be the same. You can switch the order as long as your signs stay the same. When you switch order and the signs are changed, then your sign on your answer also has to change. And then down here, 3 minus a -4. And this is where we get into multiplication a bit. So I'm going to come to the top here in our margin. If you have a positive multiplied by positive, notice I'm doing parentheses for multiplication. We're no longer using x's for multiplication because those are variables. We're saving them for later. But a positive multiplied by a positive will get you a positive. All right. A negative multiplied by a negative will get you a positive as well. And then it does not matter the order, as long as you have an odd number of negatives, it's going to end up with a negative. Because 2 negatives when you multiply are going to make a positive. So as long as you have an odd number of negatives, you're going to end up with a negative product. Remember, a product is the answer to a multiplication problem. So when I come down here and I see these parentheses, I'm actually going to look at it like this. Now, you don't have to think about it as multiplication, but that is where it's coming from. This is an invisible -1 multiplied, because it's smack dab next to each other. It's multiplying -1 by -4. And if you multiply 2 negatives, you end up with a positive. So I'm going to actually put plus on those. You could have done it up here as well. So 3 plus 4, because 1 times 4 is 4. So 3 plus 4 equals 7. So all 3 of these, no matter where you wanted to stop for your answer, all 3 of these are 7. And then again, if you don't want to think of it as multiplication, you don't have to, but whenever you see subtraction of a negative, you're actually adding a positive. So I'm going to put that in here. Subtracting a negative means or is the same as adding a positive. And I like to do a shorthand. If you've noticed, for positive and negative, I'm making it a plus sign in parentheses, and the negative is negative sign instead of parentheses. That way I don't have to rewrite the same word over and over again, but you're welcome to do that if you need to. Shorthand saves your hand a lot in notes. So when I subtract a negative, I'm actually adding a positive. -3 plus 4, I actually did that up here, so I know it's a +1. Now for some patterns that we've noticed, I did purposely sort these examples. So the left-hand side are all same signs, and the right-hand side are all different signs. So, same sign, different signs. And for the same sign, notice all of our answers are either +7 or -7. That means I'm actually going to be adding the larger number plus the smaller number. Small plus large. And I'm using 3 as small and 4 as large because those are greater distances. So 3 is only 3 units from 0, but 4 is 4 units from 0. So 4 is a larger number. -3 is only 3 units away from 0. -4 is 4 units away from 0. So 4 again is the larger number because it's a larger distance from 0. So smaller number plus larger number. So even though I have -3, -4, I'm adding them together, 3 and 4 to make 7. And then at the end, I'm going to tack on the shared sign. Since they both have the same sign, in this case they were both negative, I'm going to add that negative onto it so it becomes a -7. And then the first example, if you look up in your notes, you'll have 3 plus 4 equals 7. Positive, positive, positive. For different signs, instead of adding, we're going to subtract. And then instead of small plus large, I'm going to do the large minus the small. Since it is subtraction, I want to make sure I have a positive answer at the end, and then I'll figure out the sign. So instead of tacking on the shared sign, think of the pattern. 3 and 4. So 4 is my larger number. So 4 was negative, or if you rewrote it, 4 is negative, so my answer was negative. 4 is positive, so my answer is positive. 4 is positive, so my answer is positive. So when I tack on my sign, I'm going to tack on the sign of the larger number. So which one is the farthest distance from 0, that's the sign that I'm going to be sticking on to my final answer. So again, pause the video, rewatch. Go wherever you need to go to help yourself, and then think of these questions. Why is adding a negative the same as subtracting a positive? How will you remember that 3 minus -4 is the same as 3 plus 4, but -3 minus 4 is not the same? And if you don't believe me, look at your number line. Why is a number line useful? And how do you imagine a number line? Is it vertical in your head, so like you're getting deeper into the hole? Or is it horizontal where going left is all your negatives? So I think of it in both ways for different circumstances. So it's interesting to think how our brains work. All right. So have a great day and thank you for watching.